And then I exited out by mistake. That didn't help. All right, we're live, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. I'm Brother Doug with the Waking by Yahuwah Assembly and Yahuwah Almighty and Yahushua Messiah. Today we are doing a continuation of our Proverbs study. So we're going to be going with Proverbs 17 to 19. I think I'm going to have my mom start us off because I need to find my wireless keyboard here. So, Mom, would you like to
Sure,
start us off at
sure.
chapter 17?
Okay. Better a dry crust with peace and quiet than a house full.
And then I exited out by mistake. That didn't help. My bad. Go ahead, Mom.
Better a dry crust with peace and quiet than a house full of feasting with strife. A wise servant will rule over a disgraceful son and will share the inheritance as one of the brothers. The crucible for silver and the furnace for gold. But Yahuwah tests the heart. A wicked man listens to evil lips. A liar pays attention to a malicious tongue. He who mocks the poor shows contempt for their maker. Whoever gloats over disaster will not go unpunished. Children's children are a crown to the aged, and parents are the pride of their children. Arrogant lips are insuited. Let me get closer. Are insuited to a fool. How much worse lying lips to a ruler? A bribe is a charm to the one who gives it. Wherever he turns, he succeeds. He who covers over an offense promotes love, but whoever repeats the matter separates close friends. A rebuke impresses a man of discernment more than 100 lashes a fool. An evil man is bent only on rebellion. A merciless official will be sent against him. Better to meet a bear robbed of her cubs than a fool in his folly. If a man pays back evil for good, evil will never leave his house. Starting a quarrel is like breaching a dam. So drop the matter before dispute breaks out. Acquitting the guilty and condemning the innocent, Yahuwah detests them both. Of what use is money in the hand of a fool, since he has no desire to get wisdom? A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. A man lacking in judgment strikes hands in pledge and puts up security for his neighbor. He who loves a quarrel loves sin. He who builds a high gate invites destruction. A man of perverse heart does not prosper. He whose tongue is deceitful falls into trouble. To have a fool for a son brings grief. There is no joy for the father of a fool. A cheerful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. A wicked man accepts a bribe in secret to pervert the course of justice. A discerning man keeps wisdom in view, but a fool's eyes wander to the ends of the earth. A foolish son brings grief to his father and bitterness to the one who bore him. It is not good to punish an innocent man or to flog officials for their integrity. A man of knowledge uses words with restraint, and a man of understanding is even-tempered. Even a fool is thought wise if he keeps silent, and discerning if he holds his tongue.
I really feel like Proverbs is like a book that you should read as a child.
Mm,
A lot of the stupid mistakes we make
yeah.
in our youth is because we don't know about this righteous spiritual wisdom.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
You know, about holding your tongue, don't being a passionate person. Um, you know, if you become wicked as a young man or a young woman, you're disgracing your parents. A lot of these things we don't even realize when we're young and we're teenagers and all that.
It's true.
Mhm.
Hey, brother Dennis.
Oh,
Shabbat
Shabbat Shalom. Yeah, I'd fallen asleep, just woke up.
Oh
Aw.
man. Yeah, I think we all had a lot of us had a trying week.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, so this is showing that grandchildren are verse here. We're in Proverbs 17, verse 6. Children's children are a crown to the aged. So this would mean your grandchildren are a baraka
Yes.
to you
Mhm.
if you're a grandparent. So they're a baraka from Yahuwah.
Mhm.
And parents are the pride of their children. Interesting. Interesting. I never remembered that one. Go ahead, brother.
Really like the 27. He who forbears at a harsh word is prudent, and he who is slow to anger is a man of understanding. So that first part seems to be talking about, holding your tongue. Like when you're angry at someone, not lashing out at them with your
Mhm.
tongue and being slow to anger. Like
Mhm.
that. Very well.
Yeah, that's something I've definitely had to. I still struggle with every now and again with this.
Mhm.
With the with being able to slow your tongue so you don't just lash out at someone. That's something that I constantly struggle with. Um, yeah. So it's kind of interesting. It says even tempered. A little weird. I want to look and see what the Septuagint says there because that's a little strange. Even tempered. That seems very modern. The Septuagint makes more sense. He that forbears to utter a hard word is
Mhm.
discreet, and a patient man is wise. That makes a lot more
Yeah, it
sense.
does.
I'm not trying to attack the NIV here. It's just that some of their wording is they're trying to do like 21st century type
Yeah,
words,
yeah.
and it's like you're watering it down a little too much. So that's the Septuagint
Mhm.
there. Go ahead, brother. Patient man is wise. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Wisdom shall be imputed to a fool who asks after wisdom. That's interesting. He who holds his peace shall seem to be sensible. I remember this word. This gets paraphrased like crazy in the church. I remember, the whole concept. He who holds his tongue is stronger than the mighty, and you got all verses like that, and even a fool will seem wise if he keeps his
Yeah,
mouth
that's the
shut.
last verse. It says, right, even
Yeah,
a fool is thought
I've heard
wise.
a lot of Christian preachers preach on this verse here. They'll say, even a fool, if he shuts up, he'll seem wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a secular saying that kind of goes along with this. It's like, trying to remember something like, it's better to be quiet and for people to think you're a fool than you to open your mouth and remove all doubt.
Mhm.
That's a secular version of that. So basically, the less we talk, the better, basically.
Yeah.
So, Alrighty then. Other than that, countenance of a man sensible. Oh, this part is really important too. A man that receives gifts in his bosom do not prosper. A wicked man perverts the ways of the righteous. So that would mean like a wicked person is trying to lead a righteous person astray, basically. Hmm. Glad heart promotes health, but the bones of a sorrowful man dry up. Huh. Interesting. This is something I never saw before. A lover of sin rejoices in strife. So that's interesting. So people that love to argument
Right. Mm-hmm.
are seems there's a correlation there to loving sin in general.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. Huh. So responsible. So that's interesting. There's a lot really packaged into this chapter here. Verse 1 is really important, especially for to understand it's better to have a little bit of food and be in shalom than a house
Right.
of many
Mhm.
things with unrighteous sacrifices,
Mm-hmm.
with strife. Huh. Interesting. This is interesting. This is paralleling how we're tried in the fire in Yahuwah's refining to how gold and silver are refined.
Mm-hmm.
Silver and gold are tried in the furnace, so are choice hearts with Yahuwah. So that makes a lot of sense. Hmm. Let's see. I'm gonna try. I think I should be able to make font a little bigger here. There. Yeah. Now, he that laughs at the poor provokes him that made him. I guess I would be referring to if you're mocking someone that's poor,
Mm-hmm.
which, huh. Now, I wonder who this is referring to that says that he that rejoices at the destruction of another shall not be held guiltless. I wonder, I just wonder what the context of that is. If it's generally talking about your enemy or if it's talking about a fellow brother or sister, because it's very weird. It starts by talking about the poor and then it goes, I just wonder, yeah, interesting. Yeah, there's certain things that the Masoretic doesn't have here. The faithful has the whole world of full of wealth, but the faultless, not even a farthing. And I think you can take like some of what Solomon says in Proverbs and Ecclesiastes to extreme,
Mm-hmm.
and then you start getting like a weird worldview, like all of Job's friends and all that. That like only the righteous have wealth, only the righteous have
Mm-hmm.
this and that, only the righteous prosper, and then it gets into like a weird theology of the wicked never prosper. So if you're not prospering, you're wicked. And this
Right.
is
Right.
where the what do they call them? The New Apostolic Reformation people, like the Pentecostal people, get these false understandings.
Mhm.
Isn't that
As long as-
prosperity gospel?
Yeah. So like if you're poor, it doesn't mean you're sinning, is
That's
what I'm
right.
trying to say.
Or sick.
Scripture
sick.
does not say that you're poor because you're sinning.
Right.
Now, Scripture does say that a lazy person can become poor.
right.
Scripture
right.
does say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as far as in a general scope, just because someone's poor doesn't mean they're in sin.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And I've seen people receive that. A lot of people with even Catholic backgrounds. I have a relative that falls into that scope of what they believe about wealth and wealth equaling righteousness, and it gets very weird. That's why Paul says what he says in the New Testament. He says, "Don't let anyone deceive you into equaling wealth as righteousness."
Right. That's right.
So will the homeless be considered lazy?
Like, I guess depending on the individual, I guess, because I've seen poor people on the street that are being lazy, but I've also seen some that are trying to better themselves. They're trying to get a job.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on the, person, really. It depends on what they're doing. If they're comfortable with asking for money their whole life, I would say, yeah, that's lazy. But if they're out there trying to get a suit, squeezing together what money they have for a suit, trying to get a job interview, this and that, I wouldn't call that lazy. So it depends on the individual. I can't put all of them in a box and say all of them are lazy, because you would be surprised how many poor people end up, getting their stuff together, and then they end up, being in, in the business world. They even end up sometimes. So I can't exactly say that it's all or nothing with that topic, because it depends. Now, I will say, though, Scripture does say, though, that if you do become a lazy person or idle person,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
this will happen to you. It does warn you that, if you rest your hands too much, if you sleep too much, if you're not out trying to support yourself and your family, this is what's going to happen.
But brother, it also says that if you do not work, you do not eat, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So that's kind of what you hit the nail on the head there. That's the context I'm talking about. It's about the context. It's about the context of what Solomon is saying here. He's saying that usually in a usual situation, those that are faithful to Yahuwah will not lack anything. Not that there's never going to be a situation where a righteous Israelite is struggling.
Right.
A lot of Yahuwah's
right.
people are working, but are in a just enough situation. Like, you have just enough to live on. You don't have a lot of savings. You don't have this. You don't have that. So I don't want people getting to the mindset of okay, well, I don't have a lot of money. That means I'm doing something wrong. That is a Pentecostal, wellness, wealth and wellness gospel that has been taught to people, that's been engraved in their mind, that their righteousness does not equal wealth. Like, you can be wealthy and be in sin.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
You can, in Scripture, talks about dishonest gain, talks about unrighteous gain, extortion. Scripture frowns on extortion.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of rich people out in this world have done it unrighteously. And quite frankly, you can be rich from inheriting something. There's a lot of rich people out in this world that did nothing to get it. They just inherited it. Now, is that automatically wrong? No, I'm just saying that there are some rich people out there that are even lazy, that still have wealth. So you can't take one verse from Solomon's writings and then build a whole prosperity gospel around it. That's not being honest with the text. Solomon's talking about a specific thing. He's talking about usually the faithful that are to Yahuwah. This is one of their barakas, is what he's trying to say. In usual cases, this is the case. Not that every single time you see a wealthy person doesn't mean they're righteous, because there's many wealthy people in this world that are wicked, that are involved with child trafficking, that are involved with this, involved with that. So, yeah, wealth does not equal righteousness. Go ahead, Mom.
Solomon also says towards the end of the book that don't give me wealth, don't give me poverty, give me only my daily bread. So I get choked up with that one. So that kind of like shows his feeling too, kind of like brings it all full circle. There are times when, I'm sure he was feeling that perhaps the wealth misguided him in certain aspects. And from his heart, he says, don't give me riches, don't give me poverty, just give me what I need. So, because he also says that much further along into the book.
And this talks about taking gifts, what happens to someone that takes gifts. Whoso rewards evil for good, meaning you do not righteously judge, you judge unrighteously and punish the righteous for the wicked. Evil shall not be removed from his house. Now, in that case, evil meaning like destruction, meaning you're gonna die. So that there is scriptures like that show there is a punishment to those that take gifts and those that, like all these people in court, right? That these lawyers that defend someone that's guilty. Their time's going to come. All of them that, this is why I could never be a lawyer in this world, because be a lawyer in this world, you can't be honest. A lot of the times they tell their plaintiffs, oh, lie. They ask you, they say, not to the best of my recollection. To try to get away with lying, because technically you're just saying, not to the best of my knowledge.
Not that I remember.
Yeah, so it's a way to get around lying.
Yeah.
Perjury. It's a way to get around perjury. So the court system is very wicked in this world. So they're going to have to deal with that a lot when it comes to Judgment Day, about how many innocent people they put in jail. How many innocent people had got convicted wrongly in a court system.
Yeah, that was enlightened in this chapter too.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned
that
it.
Yahuwah hates them both.
Yeah, it's verse 13 is where it starts.
Yeah.
He, in verse 15, he that pronounces the unrighteous righteous and the righteous unrighteous is unclean and abominable with Elohim. This is why we got to be very careful, even within the body, to judge righteously, and not to allow the enemy to deceive us, and we just take one person's word over the others. So even when we're doing like Matthew 18 meetings, we really should be trying to have everyone that was involved in a situation at the same meeting, so that you get both sides of the story at the same time. So I can listen to one story, the other person's story, and then if there's anyone that was there, you have witnesses to whoever is telling the truth, and then you can do what you have to do after the meeting is over. So, but this is where we got to be careful. We got to make sure that we're not just, even with excommunicating people, you got to make sure you excommunicate the right person to the best of your ability, and that you're not declaring an unrighteous person righteous and vice versa. So that's very important. That's called rightly ruling in Yahuwah's kingdom. That's called righteous scales, all that. And again, you got to understand, some of this is Solomon's own feeling, like, why has the fool wealth for a senseless man will not be able to purchase wisdom? So in Solomon's eyes, why does a fool have wealth? So Solomon sometimes is also speaking from himself as what he feels.
Yeah.
And so it's not necessarily like Yahuwah's inspiring him to say a fool should not have wealth, because then you would have scripture contradicting. Okay, so it's the fact that Solomon's questioning this.
That's right. Yeah.
It's a question. It's kind of like how, Mom, like, remember reading the book of Baruch, and Baruch's like
Mhm.
asking the father, why do the wicked prosper, this and
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
This is what Solomon's kind of doing here.
Mhm.
He that exalts his own house seeks ruin. He that turns aside from instruction shall fall into mischief. So it goes through all this. Have you a friend for every time or every matter? Let the brothers be useful in distress, for on this account are they born. So he's basically saying, in his opinion, brothers are born for adversity, meaning like when you're in trouble, you go to your brother.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of see this even in a secular concept in movies and stuff, where like, the main character is usually in big trouble. He goes to his brother.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of funny. Even the world has a concept of this. When they're in a life or death situation, you go to the brother, you go to your family.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so this is talking about becoming collateral. Okay. Okay, I think we extrapolated that to
Mhm.
death, that
Mhm.
chapter. So I don't think there's any more we could really expound on there. Proverbs 18. Let's see. Since Brother Dennis, you joined us, and I think you're unmuted here. If you're able to, no pressure. I would like you to read Proverbs 18, if that's okay.
Proverbs 18, okay. Separatist seeks his own desire. He breaks out against all sound wisdom. A fool does not delight in understanding, but in uncovering his own heart. When a wrong one comes, scorn comes too, and with shame comes reproach. The words of a man's mouth are deep waters. The fountain of wisdom is a flowing stream. It is not good to show partiality to the wrong, or to turn aside the righteous in right ruling. The fool's lips enter into strife, and his mouth calls for blows. The fool's mouth is his ruin, and his lips are the snare of his life. The words of a slanderer are like delicacies, and they go down into the inner parts of the heart. Also, he who is slack in his work is a brother of a master destroyer. The name of Yahuwah is a strong tower. The righteous run into it and are safe. The rich man's wealth is his strong city, and like a high wall in his own imagination. Before destruction, the heart of a man is haughty, and before esteem is humility. He who answers a matter before he hears it, it is folly and shame to him. The spirit of a man sustains him in sickness, but who does bear a broken spirit? The heart of the understanding one gets knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeks knowledge. A man's gift makes room for him and brings him before great men. The first to state his own case seems right until another comes and examines him. The lot, the lot settles disputes and separates between the mighty. A brother transgressed against is a strong city, and contention are like the bars of a citadel. A man's stomach is satisfied from the fruit of his mouth. He is satisfied with the increase of his lips. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those loving it eat its fruit. He who found a wife has found Tob and receives favor from Yahuwah. The poor speaks beseechingly, but the rich answers fiercely. A man of many friends might come to ruin, but there is a loving one who sticks closer than a brother. Hmm.
Well, see here. So, now, I think verse 1 has been misused by many, especially when you get, I know Brother Yahusha can relate, when you get into the topic of separating. And for doctrinal issues, people love, usually people that are under like an ecumenical understanding will use Proverbs 18:1 to say, well, see, you're sinning, you're going by your flesh, and you want to separate from us because you're going by your flesh. If that's the case, then you would have Solomon contradicting Paul. So what is really being said here in Proverbs 18, verse 1? The Septuagint is a lot clearer. A man who wills to separate from friends seeks excuses, but at all times he will be liable to reproach. If you look at the word friends in the Greek, it means companion. It would mean brother, sister. Not everyone is our brother. Not everyone is our sister. We're not required by the Torah to be in fellowship with everyone. So don't let people use verses out of context to get you into an ecumenical understanding that everyone's a brother, everyone's a sister. We all need to have this kumbaya nonsense. That's not what Proverbs 18 is talking about. And just for those that are interested, the Greek word here for friend is philos, like, philo. Okay, friend, to be friendly to one, to I don't want to use the word wish because they have it in the definition, to, I guess, say, to say, Yah speed, okay, to say, may Yahuwah be with you, okay. That type of concept is talking about someone close to you that's of the faith, okay. He who associates familiarly with one, a companion, brother, sister, okay? One of the bridegroom's friends who is on his behalf asks the hand of the bride and render to him various services. So when you even look at one of the later definitions, who is the friend of the bridegroom, right? Sometimes allegorically, the friend of the bridegroom is, especially when you're talking about Yahuwah and Israel, the friend of the bridegroom sometimes can be allegorized as, John the Baptist or, so on and so forth. But you can't extrapolate this definition in this word to everyone that professes to be of Israel. Okay. This is talking about a specific person you're close with. Okay. This is not talking about like everyone that professes the faith. Okay. So what it's saying is it should be translated, in my opinion, in Proverbs 18:1. It should actually say, due to the definition of the Greek here, it should say, a man who wills to separate from his brothers or sisters seeks excuses. So for me to be in a transgression of this, I would have to be willingly to want to separate from my brothers and sisters for no reason. That's what it's talking about. It's not talking about you can't separate for doctrine. Okay. Nowhere in the verse does it say that. So people are taking that verse out of context. I've just heard and I've seen situations where people use that verse completely out of context. And they get this whole idea that we need a fellowship with everyone, every fellowship. If we separate from people, we're not doing the right thing, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so let me just see here. I just want to get that out of the way because I know that's been misused and perverted and twisted to get people into false guilt. Okay, so again, this chapter continues on the thread of don't pervert right ruling, don't take bribes type of thing. Okay. Fear casts down the slothful. The souls of the effeminate shall hunger. That's interesting. So the souls of the effeminate shall hunger. That's interesting.
What verse is that?
Verse 8. I'm looking at the Septuagint here. So it says, fear casts down the slothful, lazy, and the souls of the effeminate shall hunger. So that's interesting. It's comparing the effeminate to being lazy. It's kind of interesting. By the way, effeminate today would be men that are like not acting like men. You don't have to be like a homosexual to be effeminate.
Right.
I could use the example of men that wear man purses, men that dress like women, or men that act like women the way they walk, or they're metrosexual. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's like heterosexual men in the world that will be metrosexual. They'll act like women, talk like women, but yet they're heterosexual. They're effeminate. They got feminine tendencies. That's what effeminate is. Okay. So let's see. The name of Yahuwah is of great strength, and the righteous running to it are exalted. So the righteous running to it are exalted. So that's interesting. People like always say, usually of the Christian circles, Yahuwah's name doesn't matter. Well, it's very clear it matters here. It's saying that his name is of great strength. And those that run to it are, the Masoretic says save. The Septuagint says they are exalted who run to it. Okay.
Yep, I'm okay. Yep.
So other than that, I think Brother Yahusha might had to get a better connection or something. He might be back. Okay. Just trying to see if there's anything else. High cities. Verse 20 is pretty important. A man fills his belly with the fruits of his mouth and shall be satisfied with the fruits of his lips. And life and death are in the power of the tongue, and they that rule it shall eat the fruits of theirs. So even though this is something we constantly battle with, is our mouth gets us into trouble a lot, we need to rule it. Okay. Verse 22, he that has found a tube wife has found favor and has received gladness from Yahuwah. He that puts away good wife. Notice how it says tube wife, not an evil wife. Puts away a tube thing. And he that keeps an adulteress is foolish and wicked. And I believe me and Brother Yahusha and Sister Marissa, I think we were talking about this last week. So, according to the Baptist understanding of divorce and put away, right? Can this fit the Christian understanding of divorce and put away? No. You know why? Because it's telling you that you shouldn't keep an adulteress as your wife, i.e., you should divorce her. And i.e., you should not put away a good wife. It doesn't say it's wrong to put away a wicked wife. So for those that think put away and divorce is the same thing, this verse is a perfect verse to show people it is not the same thing. It's two different things. And Solomon is separating it on purpose because it's two different concepts. Putting away a wife, the best way to explain this to, in layman's terms, to people, when you put away your wife, it's like a legal separation in Torah, a legal separation where there's no bill of divorce, nothing. You're just putting her away. You're telling her, you know what? I think we need some time apart. You need to go back to your father's house. I'm punishing you right now because honestly, you have not been faithful or whatever she's been doing to cause her to be put away. You tell her, listen, I think I think we need some time apart. You need to go back to the house of your father. That's what put away is. Divorce is where that's the last result when you're having problems with your wife and you feel like you have to give her a bill of divorcement. You give her a bill of divorcement and then you guys are no longer married. She's no longer considered your wife. So there's a huge difference between the two. Huge difference. A lot of confusion because of Christianity, a lot of confusion. But when you get into chapters like this, it's very clear. Yours probably doesn't say that, right? In verse 22?
No, as a matter of fact, it when it starts talking about the wife, it says, he
Yeah.
who finds a wife
Yeah.
finds what is good. It doesn't say good wife. It says he who finds a wife, period, finds what is good. So that's very different.
I wonder if the Masoretes, they started getting their little rabbinic traditions and they were part of the issue of trying to make put away and divorce as the same thing. Because there's no reason to change that there. That's they're first of all, they're missing about half of the paragraph here. That's why you see here it says 822a. So this is not in the whole put away and keeping an adulterous wife is foolish thing. That's not even in the Masoretic.
No, it's not.
So the Septuagint's letting you know actually what divorce and put away is in this verse because it has an extra a couple sentences. So I would recommend people look into the Septuagint for these reasons. This is showing you that the context of this is about having a tube wife. A righteous wife is from Yahuwah, not a wicked wife. So we get the wrong understanding that he never wants to separate a man and a woman. That he never wants no. Separate you from the wife he chose for you, not that you chose. He chose.
Yeah.
There's a context people are missing. Okay, Yahuwah, right? He arranged Adam with the woman that he had appointed for him. Not that Adam went out into the garden and tried to find a woman for himself. If there ever was any other women, I'm just saying, in that situation, Yahuwah appointed a specific wife for him, and he does it with all men that are all people that are his. He is appointing people to be your wife and your husband. He is not going to just say, okay, that's the one I want for you just because you picked that person out because they were attractive. Okay, so that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day, but the Septuagint in Proverbs 8 verse 22 here is very clear. The context here about what put away is, and that obviously if you have a righteous wife that's submissive and obeys you, you should not put her away for no reason. Because then you're putting away a good thing. And we can go to the book of Malachi as well. For a lot of people that are confused about this topic, Malachi is a good book to go to. Okay, so I think it's Malachi 4. All right, so hold on a second, guys. Let's see here. Let me just see here. It says a lot of evangelical translations will say I hate divorce, which is not what the word there is. Hold on a second here. Just to show you guys the context here that a lot of people miss. Okay. Hold on a second. Okay. Malachi 2:16. So if you have a decent translation, this is what it's going to say. Like an older translation, this is what it's going to say. But if you should hate your wife and put her away, says Yahuwah Elohim of Yashrael, then what? And forsake them not. What is this talking about? It's talking about men putting away their wives unrighteously.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Has nothing to do with divorce. Has nothing to do with Yahuwah saying he hates divorce. This is the problem of evangelical Bibles. And that's why I say don't ever just use one Bible. This is my point. Okay, because even restored name Bibles do this. Yeah. ISR, I hate divorce. Shame on you, ISR. You guys are supposed to be pro Torah and you are holding to a evangelical traditional translation of that word. Come on now.
Mm-hmm.
ISR, you guys should know better than this. You guys should really know better than this. Yeah. Yeah, the Greek word here, just to prove to you guys, it's not divorce. It's enkat al ipo, abandoned, desert. Deserting a wife does not necessarily mean divorce. Okay. Utterly forsaken, leave behind a mom, to leave surviving. Okay, that has nothing to do with divorce. Again, how do they get divorced there? They don't really get it there. They just infer it because they're a Christian and they don't know the Torah. They put divorce there in the English. That word does not mean divorce. So this is a pet peeve I have with these translations, like even a restored name translation. So, and the funny thing is, King James even has it. If you have a King James Bible, guys, go to Malachi 2:16 and read it there. Okay, it says put away. It does not say divorce. Okay, so to me, this is a big deal because now, if you look at the Hebrew word, it's claiming that it could mean divorce as like the very last definition. Mind you, very like the fifth definition. Okay? But all the prior definitions of this word, to send out, send away, that's not divorce. Okay? So whoever decided was the first person to decide, oh, we're going to translate this as divorce, has a agenda. Okay? There's no reason. And the reason I can tell they have an agenda is because the very last definition of this word, the least primary definition of this word, they put away and divorced together as one definition. So they don't even know the difference. The Strong's Concordance doesn't even know the difference. And that's the biggest problem. But if you have a King James right here, putting away, it does not say divorced. So this is the biggest problem, guys, is when understanding the Torah, I really recommend you have something better than an evangelical Bible because they are going based on their modern terminology, their secular understanding of things, and they don't understand the Mediterranean, African, Asiatic culture. They don't understand it. You know, I mean, anyway, guys, I just wanted to point that out because Proverbs 18, what was that? Verse 18, verse 8, or let's see, 18 verse, it might have been 18 verse 18. Let's see here. 18 verse 22 has that whole context there about putting away. And obviously it's separate from divorcing because it says he that keeps an adulteress is foolish and wicked. So the key part is separate from putting away. They're two different actions. So you can't say it's the same thing. So again, Anyway, and they give a cross reference to what it means by a good wife. Okay. Proverbs 19, verse 14. Fathers divide houses and substance to their children, but a wife is suited to a man by Yahuwah. We just talked about this. Yahuwah wants you to stay with the wife he chose for you, not you chose for yourself. So anyway. So we're at Proverbs 19 now. So let's see here. So you read, Mom, Brother Dennis read. I think I'll just finish us off here. The folly of a man spoils his ways, and he blames Elohim in his heart. So it's saying a foolish man blames Yahuwah in his heart. Wealth acquires many friends. A false witness. Oh, my bad. So we're actually at verse 4. Wealth acquires many friends, but the poor is deserted even of the friend he has. A false witness shall not be unpunished. He that accuses unrighteously shall not escape. Many court the favor of kings, but every wicked man becomes a reproach to another man. Everyone who hates his poor brother shall also be far from friendship. Two understanding will draw near to them that know it, and a sensible man will find it. He that does much harm perfects mischief. He that used provoking words shall not escape. He that procures wisdom loves himself, and he that keeps wisdom shall find tube. A false witness shall not be unpunished, and whosoever shall kindle mischief shall perish by it. Delight does not suit a fool, nor is it seemly if a servant should begin to rule with pridefulness. A merciful man is long-suffering in his triumph over transgressors. The threatening of a king is like the roaring of a lion. No. So the threatening of a king is like the roaring of a lion, but as dew on the grass, so is his favor. A foolish son is a disgrace to his father. Vows paid out of the hire of a harlot are not pure. Fathers divide the house and substance to their children, but a wife is suited to a man by Yahuwah. Cowardice possesses the effeminate man. So notice how, like, a wrong type of fear is connected to effeminate. And the soul of the sluggard shall hunger. He that keeps the commandment keeps his own soul, but he that despises his ways shall perish. He that has pity on the poor lends to Yahuwah. He will repay him according to his gift. Chasten your son, for so he shall. Chasten your son, for so he shall be expectful or hopeful. Be not exalted in your soul to pridefulness. A malicious man. A malicious man shall be severely punished, and if he commit injury, he shall also lose his life. Hear, son, the instruction of your father, that you may be wise at your latter end. There are many thoughts in a man's heart, but the counsel of Yahuwah abides forever. Mercy is a fruit to a man, and poor man is better than a rich liar. The fear of Yahuwah is life to a man, and he shall lodge without fear in the places where knowledge is not seen. He that unrighteously hides his hands in his bosom will not even bring them up to his mouth. When a pestilent character is scourged, a simple man. No. When a pestilent character is scourged, a simple man is made wiser. If you reprove a wise man, he will understand discretion. He that dishonors his father and drives away his mother shall be disgraced and shall be exposed to reproach. A son who ceases to attend to the instruction of a father will cherish evil things. He that becomes collateral for a foolish child will despise the ordinance, and the mouth of the wicked man shall drink down right ruling. Scourges are preparing for the intemperate, and punishments likewise for fools. And that is Proverbs chapter 19. So there's some things we could probably go back to in here. I'm gonna see. Do you have anything to add, Mom? I'll just be right back.
Yeah.
Oh, me today.
I'm just trying to think here. Not really anything in particular.
All right. So anything?
Not really. Not that I can. Nothing in particular that.
Okay.
The only verse that I would be kind of led to is 27, where he's kind of warning the child, stop listening to instruction, and you will stray from the words of knowledge. You know, the only thing that reminds me of is I remember my father when he went for open heart surgery. I was 16 years old, and he wrote us all a letter, my brother, myself, and my mom, in case he didn't make it. And I have that letter to this day in my Bible. And one thing my father did say was, don't be upset when people correct you, because if they didn't, it would mean they didn't care. People who don't care anything about you will just let you go on your merry little way and not care about anything that happens to you. But he said, don't get upset when people instruct you, because if they didn't do that, it means that they didn't care at all about you. So it kind of reminds me of that in a way.
Well, it better be someone that is correcting you that doesn't need correction themselves.
Yeah, that's true, sister.
Or at least in the same area. I don't think it's wrong. Obviously,
No.
none of us are perfect, but I think when Paul talks about who are you to judge your brother, it's the context of like a fornicator rebuking a fornicator, or a murderer rebuking a murderer. You can still have areas that you need to work on in your life and still correct people. I think that's a false Christian interpretation, that you have to be perfect in your walk to correct people, because no one's going to be perfect in their walk ever. You could study the Bible back and forth, but you're always going to battle your flesh until the second coming. So I would just say, specifically, to piggyback off of what Marissa says, more specifically, you shouldn't let someone correct you on something that they're doing in their walk.
Yeah.
Don't let a hypocrite correct you, because don't let someone saying to you, don't do this, while they're doing that same thing in their own life. That would be the context there. So for like
That's like taking the plank out of your eye, right?
yeah, like, take the plank out of your own eye first, meaning like, I'm trying to help someone with fornication. I better not be slipping into fornication myself in my own life before I'm trying to help someone else.
Yeah.
Or rebuke someone else for that same thing. So that's what the context actually is with Matthew 7 and all that. It's not that you can't ever correct your brother or sister. It's that you better make sure you're not lacking in that area in your life before you're trying to help them out in that area.
It's true. Yeah.
So, but yeah, there's a lot of righteous wisdom here. False witness will not be unpunished. Delight does not suit a fool.
Mhm.
A merciful man is long suffering. Yeah, a lot of times Solomon would talk about the king and not to anger a king. It's not wise to anger a king. Threatening of a king is like the roaring of a lion. Foolish son is a disgrace to his dad. Vows paid out of a hired harlot are not pure, meaning that you should not pay your vows with the money of a harlot.
Right, right.
So basically,
Yeah.
in the Torah, you have right when you paid your vows. A lot of times, the vows came with physical sacrifices
Mhm.
in the Levitical priesthood. So there was something in the Torah that you could not use adulteress's money or harlot's money to pay for your sacrifice.
Yeah. Right, yeah,
So
understandable.
that's what Solomon is talking about there. This is why I say like you don't start someone off in a book like Proverbs.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
he's just
definitely.
gonna-
Yes.
He's gonna like skate off, not even tell you the context half of the time, because he's talking about like Paul in a lot, Solomon in a lot of ways is like the Tanakh version of Paul. He's not going to explain to you everything.
Uh-huh.
He's not going to hold you by the hand. King Solomon's not going to hold you by the hand. Oh, guess what? This is where I got this from. So you got to
Yeah.
know.
Because he probably made the assumption he was speaking to people
Right.
who knew the
Yeah.
law. You know what I mean? I'm sure that's what his mindset was. These writings that he was putting out, these are for people who know the law, you know, for Israel. And that's what you have to remember when you're reading, Solomon.
And the shame is that a lot of Christians don't know Proverbs like they think they do, because
Mhm.
even in verse 15 here, he says, or wait a minute, verse 16, he that keeps the commandment keeps his own soul,
Mm.
but he that despises his ways shall perish, meaning he that despises the law,
Right.
he'll die.
That's right. Yep.
So,
Yep, that is true.
so. Be not exalting your soul to haughtiness. Okay. This is interesting. A malicious man will be severely punished. Oh, I thought it said sevenfold for a second. That would have been interesting. Also lose his life. So this goes back to Deuteronomy here, where it says, "He that commits an injury will lose his life." So this goes back to life for a life type of thing. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. And I can relate to this verse here. There's many thoughts in a man's heart, but the counsel of it comes from Yahuwah, meaning like Yahuwah is the one counseling you, showing you the right way, even though there's many thoughts in your mind. All right, I think it's about it for today, guys. Definitely want to get off here while we still have time to relax and enjoy the rest of the Shabbat here. So hopefully you viewers and listeners got something out today. I apologize for my camera screwing up like 3/4 of the way through the study. There's nothing I can do about that. So anyway, guys, have a great rest of the Shabbat. For those of you guys that were keeping the feast at the same time as us, have a great rest of the last great day as we're closing on, finishing up the week of Sukkot here. And Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Stay tuned. All right.
Hey, whatever happened to